Well, I'm talking about gender equal world. I'm Ashley Mazuri, and in the next hour or so, we'll be talking about Breaking the Bias, which is the 2022 International Women's Day campaign theme. And joining me to have this conversation is Elizabeth Irungu, who is the General Manager, Business Development and Client Relations at ICA Lion Asset Management Limited. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us here on Morning Prime.
Good morning.
Now, let's just start with the fact that next week we will be celebrating International Women's Day. As a woman who's risen through the ranks, yes, where do you think we're at?
Thank you, Ashley, and I think it's a very good question. We've made strides. The world over, we've made strides. For Africa, for Kenya, I think it's even, we are behind, but definitely we've made the strides towards making it less biased towards women, but there's a lot more to be done.
From where you're speaking at or where you're sitting, what's the lot that needs to be done?
A lot is the women need to be at the forefront. Let me speak for the finance and investments area where I am. That's where I've worked for all my life.
Yeah.
I think there's still very few women at the top levels. We have more coming in, but we do not have many women at the top echelon of the organizations that are in finance and investment. So I still feel there's quite a bit in terms of conquering and making the woman well represented at those levels.
Maybe you could tell us about your journey. You know, you are now a general manager. I guess that wasn't easy. How was it for you?
All right. You said it well. It wasn't easy. It's been a journey of a lot of hard work, and I had to prove myself. Of course, a lot of determination, because I started as a junior economist in the office of the president, so you can imagine the number of men I was interacting with. Basically, I would go for a meeting, and they're all men, and I'm the only woman, and I'm told, take notes and sit behind.
When was that? That was a different era.
2005. That's not so long ago, yeah, honestly. It did help that I could listen to the conversations, and I was wondering why are no women in front? And perhaps that is the force that made me make a determination that I will work hard to find my space among this crowded men's space. And I broke out and went to the investment world. Of course, I had to do a lot of learning. I did the CFA program, which is one of the hardest qualifications that one can get in the investment. It's a gold standard for an investment professional. I got it in 2008, and I still remember being celebrated as the third woman in Kenya to get the CFA charter, which had not been done which had only been done by 2 other women in Kenya. But men had done it. They knew about it. We didn't know about it even. I mean, even information was not available. So to rise through the ranks just meant that even in terms of delivery, it's not a matter of being given because you're a woman. You have to put in the hard work, the grit. You have to show the value you're bringing on the table. But sometimes you find that you may have the same skill set, you may have the same experience, but when it comes to negotiations, the woman is given less, they will rank you a little lower. Take the case where I had to take breaks because I got my children during my career life.
Yes.
That too comes in between you and achieving goals, especially to do with working and getting to the top of the game. So women have more to overcome than a man has. And I think that for the Kenyan community, we have the right policies that have been put in place, but I think the attitudes are still evolving and they need to evolve.
You've talked about, I think, 3 issues that I want us to dive deep into. Number one, negotiations, the fact that, you're a woman, so it was always hard for you. And then you talked about the reproductive issue, becoming a mother and juggling the two. Maybe we can start with negotiations. How was it for you? How did you navigate?
For me, I'm glad to say that I had good mentors who have helped me to understand how to navigate negotiations without brushing and without rubbing people wrongly. So when it came to negotiations, I only recall once when I went to my boss and I indicated I would want to take a certain position that they were recruiting for, and I was very confident. I have the skills, I have the experience, and I had the passion for it. And the way it was put back to me, it was like, oh, sorry, you can't make it. This is very manly position. And I was taken aback, and I tried to push back to say, I can do it, give me a chance, I will prove myself. And I wasn't given the chance, and it left really a bad taste in my heart, and I was feeling, oh no, how could I have trusted that I can go open myself to this man and hope that he is going to listen to me. But again, maybe I'm made of a different material, because it only made me resolve, I will work hard and I will get it. And for sure, I did get to that level, the position I'm currently
How long did it take?
That was when I was rebutted. That was in 2012. I only got to a position that I am in 2017. It took me five good years. Yes.
But in those 5 years, did you have to change your strategy? Because I'm so sure there's someone out there who's watching us right now, and they're going through the same journey. So how was it? How did you decide? You know, because number one, you'd be upset.
Sure, I was.
And then so many people lose hope at that point. I mean, they'll always say, I'm a woman. So how was it for you? How did you, sit down and decide, okay, I have to change my strategy. This is my goal. There are some hurdles on the way, but I have to go through them.
All right. Of course, there was that element of thinking, it's time to give up. This thing is not going to work. Maybe I was never cut out for this. Those thoughts did come to my mind. But over time, I kept seeing other women who are making it. And seeing somebody and reading about Michelle Obama really helped me a lot. Sometimes books just give you this awakening. It can be done. You can do it. That can be you. It doesn't have to be somebody else. So I read a lot. I love reading. So through reading, especially biographies, I came to that resolve that I can do it, and I kept now the faith burning. And when the opportunity presented itself, I was ready to take it on and to believe that I can do it. Because the other aspect is, once you've been pushed down, you might not be able to wake up because you think they are right and I am wrong. So you really need somebody who can validate you, and if that doesn't happen, that means you can shelve your dreams and your aspirations. But for me, I think reading books, seeing women thrive and just following them even on social media and seeing what they are doing really helped me to keep myself and to believe in myself before even I'm validated by others. But most importantly, my current employer, I must say, they are my biggest supporters, believing in me and giving me a chance. That I do not take it for granted, because they are men. So there are also good men out there who actually help women to rise to the top.
I want us to just look at these statistics that I found, and it says that according to Global Gender Gap Report of 2020, it will take another 100 years to achieve gender equality based on the current rate.
Wow.
Having gone through the journey yourself, and yes, we have made gaps as a society, as a country, and even the world in general, but then 100 more years of this.
That's long.
It's quite long, and not forgetting the COVID-19 pandemic also sort of pushed us back. How do you think we should navigate, especially in the work area, as employers, as leaders who are in top positions such as yourself? What needs to be done? Because this young generation is not the same as the old generation.
Sure, they are not. I think that's a very good question. Of course, it's worrying that somebody can predict that 100 years is what will take. Gender issues started more than 100 years back, and now we are saying we need another 100 to get where we need to be. But definitely we can close that gap, and I believe one of the ways is using the mediums that we have. Like what you're doing already is very good. When I was growing up, I didn't see an anchor like yourself talk about this, so there is a big difference today. So if we use the medium in the medium that we have to pass the message that it can be done, we can also change the mindset of a lot of people, because many times until people hear about something, they will do nothing about it. They will just believe that they were meant to just be in the kitchen. So women need to hear this conversation.
Exactly.
So what you're doing is good. That is one way. For those of us who are in positions of leadership, I believe that our call is beyond just delivering profit and loss. I think our call is also to impact. I think every organization needs to see how best are they impacting through the jobs and whatever services and goods they are bringing to the market, so that we don't over-concentrate on profit making and forget that there is a social impact to every one of us who is in a job. So for example, myself, I've got women who are working below me. I definitely have a role to lift them higher, to give them confidence, to mentor them and to coach them and make them see the bigger picture, and so that they don't settle. Then the other thing is nudge every woman. As a woman, let's nudge one another and tell each other you cannot settle for less, because sometimes you also settle for less. So don't settle for less. Just because maybe you fell pregnant at 17 or 15, you don't have to settle for less. You can break the barrier. If you're a woman and you are rejected for a role, doesn't mean you can't apply for the next one. Please keep trying, don't give up. So even as women, we need to hold each other's hands and move forward.
But most of the times, it's actually the opposite. Women are actually the ones who bring each other down. And it's because of petty reasons such as jealousy. You know, you think someone is going to overtake you. So I guess we're our own enemies at the end of the day, and maybe we need to break that. But you also talked about the issue of the fact that a woman is not just about working and providing. You have to find the balance, because you will become a mother, you'll get married. There are so many responsibilities out there. How was it for you, and how did you find that perfect balance?
I like the way you call it perfect. I can tell you, I do not know whether it is perfect, but it is a balance. That's what I'll say. Every day is a balance, because as a working mom, you have duties that come after work, before work, during work. You'll be called is fever and all that. I think it takes a lot of strength and fortitude of mind. I think you conquer it first in the brain, where you believe that you can do it. So for me, when I was especially building my career at the early stages, I did a lot of sacrifices. And the sacrifices I had to do is, for example, I needed to add my skills. And to add my skills, I needed to study extra, and I had children. So what I did was basically to determine that I'm not going to have TV time. So one of the things we did as a family for our first 10 years, we didn't have a TV. And it was deliberate. You don't want to be hooked up to programs and all that. So I gave up that, and I punished the children. So.
Yes, because I can imagine growing up. Oh my God.
No TV. So I had more time. That means when you got home, you had quality time, you had your dinner, and then you sleep early. I'll also sleep early, and I can wake up early and study. So that really helped, and that's how I achieved my CFA charter.
Okay.
Because if I didn't do that then, it means during the day, because I'm at work, I'll not be able to study. Then I also took the time that we lose a lot on traffic, I would use it to study. So for example, I will leave work. I had a very good employer. 4 o'clock was our time to leave. So we finished work at 4, and because I worked in Upper Hill, I would go to a library which is very close to my workplace and read until say 6 p.m. and then go to work. And while all these other people are struggling in traffic, or you're in town, you're just lost in this noisy space, I would actually find my quiet space and study. So that's how I balanced. And then our weekends, specifically, I spend it with my family. If they want quantity, you get quantity Saturday and Sunday, but not Monday to Friday. It's a lot of sacrifice. I don't know that it is a balance. It did work for me, and I think it can work for many women if you just sacrifice a little. Sometimes we don't sacrifice the shows.
But for example, my schedule is not as flexible as yours.
I hear you.
So now it's different. I guess it depends with the profession.
Absolutely. Work out with your timelines and see what you can give up that is not so material. Like watching your Netflix, is it really, really important? I just used to miss out on commenting on what shows are going on. That's it.
Okay, so it's just taking that initiative on your own, but of course you didn't do it on your own. And in order for us to win this fight of gender equality, we can't do it alone as women.
Not at all.
Men need to play a big role. And I think we're, depending on our culture and society and how most people are raised, this is equally a challenge that we need to overcome. How do you advise that we do that?
The support mechanisms need to be there, and I'm blessed to have had those support mechanisms by family. So how you do it is also you communicate. I think when you communicate what you're trying to do, people are able to understand you. When they miss you in those occasions, they are not going to judge you. Like if you're going to miss those birthday parties because maybe you have to do something else which is very personal, they'll understand you and you can explain yourself rather than just staying in your cocoon and making it just your own journey. Work with others, it becomes much easier. So create that support mechanism by sharing and having people who understand you and they can accommodate you in your program and in your in how you're operating.
I'm about to put you on the spot. Sadly, there are people who are in relationships or in families that are not as supportive. Let's say they're watching us right now. What would you tell them? Because either way, life has to move on, but then at the end of the day, they're not, they're not getting the support that maybe you did or what I am getting. So how do they navigate through that?
If the stars are not aligned and you still believe in the journey and where you're headed, forge for it. Go for it. That's what I say. Just accept it is what it is. And don't throw pity parties for yourself. Just keep moving. They'll finally see the light. Because what you're doing is good for you and it's good for them. They might not see the benefit today, but they will see it later. And I've seen many women who have done that, where people are not able to see that vision you had. And let me give you an example. Wangari Maathai.
Yes.
That woman, when she was fighting for environmental conservation, how many of us really paid much attention?
No.
If she had looked at the rest of the crowd that we are not understanding her, including women, I don't think we were understanding. Only a few. You would see her with a handful of people who are saying, no, Karura must be preserved. Or, Uhuru Park must be preserved. And I look back and I challenge myself. I didn't see it. But today when I walk in Karura and I read some of the things that are inscripted there, I keep thinking she had seen the light and she kept going and she kept the faith and she did it, and for that reason today we are better. So she didn't get deterred by the fact that she didn't get full support. So just like her, to draw parallel, I think as a woman, when you know that what you are pursuing is bigger than self, is better for the greater good for all, then go for it. Don't worry about the loneliness. One day you're going to celebrate.
The gender agenda is big in the country.
It is.
We have policies, we have laws, but as if we go by the study, 100 more years, do you think? Okay, let me just try to rephrase this because I'm trying to figure out. So then. Here we are, we have the right laws and policies to ensure that the gender equality agenda is achieved in the country. But still, it could be implementation, it could be that we are not doing what we're supposed to do. But what would you say is the challenge in that, considering we already have laws? Is it the women themselves? Do we need to push harder, not wait for other people to, forge the way for us, or just, as you said, grab the horns, the bull by the horns and just go?
The laws are good.
Yes.
And it's good because policy, law, those are your first building blocks. If you've put those ones in place, then you can be sure whatever else that comes is building on a solid ground. So I'm very proud that Kenya has made strides to put the right framework and the right laws in place that will help women to thrive. Now, we haven't yet implemented every bit of those laws and policies that have been developed. Some of the reasons have to do with a woman. Some of the reasons have to do with the fact that it takes time to change culture.
Yeah.
Because it's a cultural aspect also. That culture cannot change overnight just because you drafted a law and it was assented and all that.
Yeah.
So we must also appreciate that time is also a factor to the success of this, but are we fast tracking it? Is, for example, the Ministry of Gender doing everything to progress the discussion around gender issues, because they are the ones who have the mandate and now they have the framework? Are they doing everything? So again, our leadership needs to come to the front and not only wait for International Women's Day so that they talk about it. It needs to be an everyday talk. It needs to be a talk around our dinner tables. It needs to be a talk around our conversations in the offices, so that in every conversation, or in most of our conversations, we are bringing in the aspect of gender.
Yeah.
So being socialized to these aspects is not a walk in the park. I believe that it starts somewhere, and organizations have to be deliberate, because that is where knowledge resides.
Yeah.
If you look, things to do with gender, they require knowledge. I know even the women who are working in the at the bottom of the pyramid, they also deserve it, but unless the actors who are consumers of their services and their goods also believe in it, they really can't push from bottom upwards. But if the top has it, it really can permeate to the downside. So we have a lot as leadership, both in the private sector, public sector, but I'll put more weight on the public sector.
Okay.
Yes.
And even as we talk about gender equality and achieving it, let's not forget that nowadays we hear men saying the focus is not shifted to the women, and using their terms, boy child is struggling. So also, how do we maintain that balance? Even as we try fight for the women, let's not forget the men.
Are they forgotten, really? I don't know. Maybe they're just woye. I don't know whether they are forgotten, and I don't believe they are forgotten.
Yeah.
But I think deliberate efforts for the boy child are required, so that there's always a balance. Because even when this imbalance happened, I don't think they purposed to have the imbalance, but everything was fitting towards the boy child.
Yeah.
And that's how it ended that way. Now we are saying be more deliberate in how, if for example I start a program at ICLIN, can I be more deliberate that the boy child, the girl child, they are on the table? Many times we end up with boys and we are not asking, where are the girls?
Yeah.
So now we want the conversations to be very balanced. Call the woman on the table, call the boy on the table, and give them the chance to actually consume whatever you have. So I don't think the boy child has been forgotten, and if they have been forgotten, that would be very unfortunate, because we need each other. It is not a one gender thing. It's both genders, and success comes for all.
There's also another issue that most people talk about, which is feminism, but then there is extreme feminism in that everything that is done, whether the woman is on the wrong or right, it's going to be blamed on the boy or the man.
Yes.
How do we also eliminate that, even as we conclude this conversation?
Wow, mind. Feminism is another thing. I think it's a way of hiding from the reality. I think feminism sometimes is pushed in the wrong way. Like you have said, something happens and the boy is the one who gets the blunt of it, not the girl. So again, it's to hear about equity and to be very deliberate about how you judge without being a feminist who is victimizing one gender. So even for myself as a woman in leadership, I've got to have that in mind, that I will not victimize the man because they hurt a woman, and it has to be the man who is on the wrong.
Yeah.
Be very unbiased and maintain that balance, and it starts here. You've got to remind yourself, because sometimes it's almost like the default setting. So we have to reset. We have to reset.
Okay. I wanted you to hold more thoughts.
Okay.
I know you have so much you have to say, but I want us to
Right.
take a short break. We'll be back with the conversation shortly.
KTN News. Get the whole story.